Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. 5 things that we learned from Manchester City's 6-1 victory last night over Wycombe Wanderers in the Carabao Cup. It was good fun. It was good fun. All aboard the Carabao Cup hype train. I'm a little bit tired today and a little bit run down, if I'm being totally honest with you, but I am going to power on through this video because I do want to talk about Manchester City and I do want to talk about our academy players and everything that we learned from last night's game because it was a whole lot of fun. Genuinely, I absolutely loved it. I adored it. It was cracking fun. So why not talk about it in a little bit more detail? Just notice the flask there sneaking into shot with Elliot Eastwick's hot sauce, actually advertising himself. Well done, Elliot. Free plug for you there, mate. Either way, move that out of the way. I want to say as well, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you don't mind, because we are on the road to 60k. It'd be massively appreciated. Get me towards 60k by the end of this year would be absolutely wonderful. Well before then, hopefully. But hit that subscribe button. I'm going to start today initially with the question: do we now have a left back? Of course, I'm talking about Joshua Wilson Esbrand, the 18-year-old left back who last night made his Manchester City debut and impressed with a performance of composure, pace, guile, strength, some nice passing, and of course a very composed assist to set up Riyad Mahrez. I mean, the obvious answer immediately is well, no. We don't have a left back yet ready for the first team. And what I mean by that is he ready to absolutely unequivocally cope with the demands of Premier League football every single week? Probably not, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because he's 18 years old and because he's still very much making his baby steps into the world of football. But what I will say, I think we've proven that actually sometimes we can look a little bit closer to home. And actually, he showed last night that he's probably ready every now and then to be potentially useful if we see so fit to use this young lad. I thought last night he was impressive. We do have to remember, of course, the Premier League is a little bit higher level than Wycombe Wanderers. With all due respect, you saw what Sterling and we saw what Foden and Mahrez and KDB did to Wycombe's defence. They pulled it to pieces with relative ease as soon as he went through the gears. And I'm not saying most teams have that level of quality, but I can imagine if Joshua Wilson Esbrand was at left back for Wycombe last night, he might have struggled as well. Not because he isn't a very good prospect, but because the levels required for playing in the Premier League compared to League One, they're on a different level entirely. You know, up against the likes of Mo Salah and so on, and people like that. The pace of Rashford maybe for Manchester United, or the physical presence of Ronaldo drifting out to the wings. Or maybe the guile or strength of Lukaku or something like that, or even like the sprightly runs of Werner for Chelsea. These things would, they would potentially get to a young player. But I think we saw last night that this guy is a genuinely good footballer. And not every young player has to be a superstar to make an impact. And what I really enjoyed about Wilson Esbrand last night is the fact that he just is a left back. I know that sounds absolutely crazy to say, but given everything we've been through with the left back role, be it Zinchenko stepping in dutifully after Delph had done it at some point, the disaster that's been Mendy on and off the pitch in many ways at all. It was just nice to see a left back play last night that looked like a left back that could get forward, put in a cross, get an assist, looked a decent turn of pace, decent strength as well. So have we found a left back? Do we have a left back? We found a left back. Do we have one fully ready yet? Probably not, but is he worth paying attention to and being patient with? I would say so. I would say last night he warranted another closer look, as did the next person on this list. Cole Palmer is a terrible pun, but I couldn't resist a terrible pun that I saw going around Twitter last night. Cole Palmer last night came on, and I mainly want to talk about him just because sometimes you sense that a player could go past that tipping point where they don't feel like an academy player anymore, even internally for them, and they start to believe that they actually belong. And what I mean by that is it's that confidence that you can sense sometimes from a young player where they feel like, actually, you know what, I'm not absolutely in awe to all these first team players, and I can actually make a name for myself a little bit. And he said as much as well afterwards in the interview, where in other games he passed a little bit, but this time he thought he'd go for it a little bit. And that comes from a couple of places. It comes from his own burgeoning self-confidence, and it also comes from trust with the manager, and it comes with familiarity for being around the squad in general. Cole Palmer last night in his little cameo looked totally, utterly at home. He didn't look like a young lad trying to make his first steps into the professional game. He looked like a guy who's exactly who he is. He's made a few appearances now, trains every single week, and isn't overawed by the Etihad experience in front of loads of fans. He isn't overawed by playing with Mahrez and De Bruyne and Foden. He didn't care about passing to them because he had one thing in his mind, and not in a greedy way, just in a I trust my own abilities kind of way. And last night was potentially a bit of a watershed moment for Palmer. I'm not expecting him to play loads and loads of games. No, not in the slightest. But what I will say is that you can tell he's ready internally to take that next step. And that takes time and patience, once again, as we mentioned earlier. But it was a big night for Cole Palmer last night, because that goal, that can change a young player's mindset and mentality. And half of football, more than half of football, is what's in between these ears. Intelligence and understanding and confidence is genuinely a big part of the game. We know he's got the ability, and we know he's got the football intelligence, but does he have the confidence and self-belief? Well, he might just after last night. The third point I want to talk about, I mean, we've already touched on it, but in general, I do want to talk about this idea of just trusting in youth. Look, why not? Every now and then, I'm not saying throw them in every single week, but as Guardiola mentioned, these young players are familiar and they are capable of stepping in because they have that rhythm, because they are training with the first team every single day. And if they're training with the likes of De Bruyne, once again, Foden, Mahrez, Diaz and Gundogan and Bernardo and all these absolutely high quality players, there is no way that they aren't prepared in some sense for playing against high quality players. I'm not saying they should be starting every single week or anything like that, but every now and then, maybe actually we should trust some of these young players, because it does mean a little bit more. Look at Palmer's celebration. Look at the photos of Mbete, Egan Riley, Wilson Esbrand and Finley Burns sat on the pitch afterwards. They were absolutely delighted. They were soaking up the atmosphere because they care about this club, because it's the nascent stages of their career and they're young players, and every now and then that does count for something. It counts for something for me, man. I love seeing a young Manx score. I love seeing that eagerness to get on. I love seeing McAtee's effervescent energy as he came on in the late sub. He couldn't help but get forward despite being playing at left back. I love that. And I think sometimes we should probably trust a little bit what we've got a little bit more. And given the fact that as well, look, we've got no Stones in Laporte for the next couple of weeks, unfortunately. Like what happens if Ake or Diaz, fingers crossed, touch wood and all that kind of stuff, what happens if one of those picks up an injury? Do we play an Adrian Fernandinho there? We probably would. But at some point we might have to trust in Mbete or Finley Burns. And do you know what? Against maybe a lesser Premier League team, I'm not saying Liverpool or Chelsea, why not, man? Why not? I think we should sometimes trust these young players because they're better than we realise. And if an academy team, not an academy team, if a Premier League team can throw one of their academy lads in every now and then and potentially lose to us, why can't we throw 10 of our first team players from an academy lad in as well every now and then? There's no reason it should be any less of a, we should be detrimentally affected by that, should we? Because, that's not how it always works. Be patient as well, though. I want to pull up these stats now as well on screen because I was looking for something else, an old tweet of mine, and I found this tweet from 2018 where I was talking about the general progression of Foden, and I said I think there's a plan, and I was talking about Premier League appearances, and I said 5 appearances this year, 15 next at 18 years old, maybe 25 appearances at 19 years old, then a guaranteed start at around 20-ish. And here's what happened. 5 appearances, as I called. 13, I said 15, 2 off, so basically the same. 23 the year after, I said 25, so basically the same. And then the year after, around 20 years old, basically a guaranteed starter, which he was. And the point was there was a slow progression, as you can see. And the reason I called that it wasn't science or better knowledge than anyone else. It was because this is how these things work with young players. It is about patience. It is about taking baby steps, and it is about slowly learning. And maybe we need to have the patience as well, but also show that Foden can get there if we trust in these young players and give them much opportunity. And I'm fascinated by this, and fingers crossed we take the same path with some of these young players. And on that subject, the next point I want to talk about is King Philip Foden, man. King Philip Walter Foden. Oh God, he's definitely getting better and better. I said in my season preview that I feel like this season Phil Foden could even explode to another level of brilliance. Last season, as we just discussed, was the season where he broke through and he got Young Player of the Year and all this kind of stuff. And he really announced himself. But it's easy to forget that actually, at the start of the season, there was some grumblings about a lack of game time. And he only really broke into the team categorically as a starter in the second half of the season, and he really did. He was absolutely immense in that second half, full of goals and brilliance and immense technical ability and pace as he repositioned himself as a left winger. But this season, there's been rumblings that Guardiola might put him back in midfield, and we saw it last night. We saw it in the substitute appearance the other day, and I feel like he might end up there because. Not because he is a better player, but not because, we've got any lack of players in there. It's because I feel like Guardiola feels he belongs there now. Sometimes when you've settled into a team and you take there's a thing in general, I reckon the break away from Manchester City over the summer was perfect for Phil Foden because he came back without any question marks. This is the first season Foden has entered pre-season training with the first team without any question marks about his stance in the squad, his status in the squad. Season before last, he was actually still wondering when he was going to play much, but now he knows he will do. Now he knows he's a potential star, and he's come back with confidence and a conviction as, no, I'm not the guy, the young guy anymore. I'm the guy. I am the guy. And his performance last night was absolutely immense, and he took hold of that game by the scruff of the neck in the way that you expect De Bruyne, David Silva, Yaya Toure, all these players do. And it was just Wycombe in inverted commas, but still there was a drive and energy to performance that belied his youthful years. He's only 21 years old. He only turned 21 about 3 months ago. And to be this good already, it's quite special. And I loved how he was like Uncle Phil as well last night. He was like a dad to some of these younger players, giving him like pep talks and all this kind of stuff, no pun intended, getting him motivated, and it was wonderful. He's ready to go up a gear, I reckon. He's a special player. And finally, just a bit of Carabao Cup, essentially hype. I love it, man. I absolutely love this competition. And can you see why I love this competition? 6 goals last night, a whole bunch of debutants from the CFA, loads of fun. I thought the atmosphere, even though it wasn't the busiest stadium, I thought it was good fun in the stadium, man. I loved it. Cheap tickets, great young players, interesting stories. The Wycombe fans were good fun as well, to be fair to them. They sang constantly throughout it. And the Carabao, to me, is absolutely unrivaled. It's a fantastic competition because it lacks the pretension maybe of some of the other competitions. I know people prefer the FA Cup, but to me, I genuinely prefer the Carabao. I always find it more entertaining. I always find it, the stories are better, they're more interesting. I just love that we take it relatively seriously. Well, I know we played a lot of kids last night, but we still do take it seriously, as is evident with all those wins in a row. And I do want to win it again this season because I want that record, and I want to see us go far and further, and I want to see some of all these young players play again. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. It was very youth focused, but I think that was relevant after last night's game. I would love to know what you think about Wilson Esbrand, Cole Palmer, trusting in youth, and Mbete and so on. I didn't even talk about Finley Burns and CJ Egan-Riley and Romeo Lavia and McAtee, who did really well when they came on. But I did discuss them at length last night in the match reaction video, so go watch that if you want to. But it was a fantastic night of football. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much to everyone watching this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Give this video a big old like if you don't mind. Get me to 60k. I'm getting closer and closer. Thank you for watching. Thank you for Scott Denhamy, my Patreon producer, and all the names currently scrolling down the side of the screen, and all the people who like it and watch it, and the members as well. You're all absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Come on, City.